I still remember the day I found the letter. It was a rainy afternoon, the kind where the sky feels heavy and quiet, and every drop of rain taps against the window like a heartbeat. I had just come home from school when the smell of cinnamon and fresh bread filled the house. Mom was in the kitchen, but something else caught my attention. On the coffee table lay Grandma's old photo album, the small, worn one she always kept beside her chair. As I opened it, a yellowed envelope slipped out. My name, Emily, was written on it in shaky cursive. My heart skipped a beat. Grandma had always been my safe place. Her soft laugh, her gentle stories, her warm hands. She was more than a grandmother. She was comfort in a world that often felt uncertain. With trembling fingers, I opened the envelope. Inside was a letter, written in her familiar handwriting, faded but full of life. My dearest Emily. As I read, I could almost hear her voice. She wrote about her childhood, about growing up in a small house where work came before play, where love was shown quietly through sacrifice. She spoke of her parents, tired but devoted, and of her brother, the one she loved deeply and lost too soon. She wrote about love, too, her first love, and how life forced her to let it go. And then she wrote about me, about the kindness she noticed, the moments she watched silently, always proud. Even when life feels impossible, she wrote, there is always light, always love, always hope. Tears blurred my vision. The letter felt like more than words. It felt like a lifeline. Grandma shared lessons she had learned through pain, resilience, forgiveness, and the importance of holding close the people who matter. When I finally folded the letter, I felt both sorrow and gratitude. Grandma had given me more than memories. She had given me guidance for life. And in that moment, I understood something deeply true. Love never really leaves us. Before I found the letter, I had only seen fragments of Grandma's life. The stories she shared were always gentle, softened with warmth or humor, never revealing the full weight of what she had endured. But as I read her words, it felt like opening a door into a world of sacrifice, love, loss, and quiet resilience. Grandma grew up in a small Midwest town, in a modest house at the edge of a cornfield. Her parents worked endlessly, waking before dawn, returning after sunset. Their love was strong, but silent, shown through actions, not words. From a young age, Grandma learned responsibility. She had a younger brother, Tommy, her shadow, her closest companion. When illness took him away, her world shifted forever. She was only 16, yet forced to face a grief that would shape her for life. She wrote about sitting by his bedside at night, holding his hand, whispering promises she couldn't keep. And still, she learned something powerful. That strength is not the absence of pain, but the courage to keep going. Then came her first love, Samuel. Stolen afternoons, laughter beneath an old oak tree, moments that felt endless, until life intervened and she had to let him go. It was a quiet heartbreak, one that left a scar, but also taught her compassion. Grandma turned loss into empathy, pain into kindness, and grief into service. She found joy in simple things: baking bread, sewing for neighbors, helping without expecting anything back. Her courage amazed me. She lived through hardships that could have broken her, yet her heart remained full of love. By the time I finished this part of her letter, the rain outside had stopped. Sunlight peeked through the clouds, and inside, I felt awe, gratitude and a deep understanding. Grandma's life wasn't just about survival. It was about quiet triumph and the strength that lives on through the people we inspire. As I kept reading, I realized Grandma had been watching me more closely than I ever knew. Growing up, I often felt lost, caught between expectations and quiet fears I never spoke out loud. School felt overwhelming at times. Friendships shifted. Confidence came and went. Some days I felt invisible, like I was trying my best and still falling short. Mom tried to understand, but life was busy, and the house often felt too quiet. What I didn't realize then was that Grandma noticed everything. The way I stayed kind even when I was hurting. The way I helped others without being asked. The way I kept going even when I doubted myself. In her letter, she wrote about those moments, about watching me grow, not stepping in, but always standing nearby. She knew life had to teach me in its own way. And suddenly, I understood something I never had before. I wasn't alone during those difficult years, even in silence, even from a distance. Grandma had been guiding me. Her love wasn't loud or demanding, it was patient, steady, and always present. And as I read her words, I felt it clearly. Every struggle I faced, every doubt I carried, I had been walking with her strength beside me all along. As I kept reading, I realized Grandma had been watching me more closely than I ever knew. Growing up, I often felt lost, caught between expectations and quiet fears I never spoke out loud. School felt overwhelming at times. Friendships shifted. Confidence came and went. Some days I felt invisible, like I was trying my best and still falling short. Mom tried to understand, but life was busy, and the house often felt too quiet. What I didn't realize then was that Grandma noticed everything. The way I stayed kind even when I was hurting. The way I helped others without being asked. The way I kept going even when I doubted myself. In her letter, she wrote about those moments, about watching me grow, not stepping in, but always standing nearby. She knew life had to teach me in its own way. And suddenly, I understood something I never had before. I wasn't alone during those difficult years, even in silence, even from a distance. Grandma had been guiding me. Her love wasn't loud or demanding. It was patient, steady, and always present. And as I read her words, I felt it clearly. Every struggle I faced, every doubt I carried, I had been walking with her strength beside me all along. After that rainy afternoon, my life slowly began to change. Grandma's letter was no longer just words on paper. It became a guide, a quiet voice that stayed with me wherever I went. School didn't feel like a battlefield anymore. I stopped chasing perfection, and I stopped needing everyone's approval. When classmates teased me, I chose patience. When someone struggled, I chose kindness. Each small choice felt like honoring Grandma's strength. At home, I learned resilience. Mom was still overwhelmed, but instead of feeling helpless, I stepped forward. I cooked meals. I listened. I stayed. Grandma had taught me that love isn't loud, it's consistent. I faced my own fears, too. Self-doubt didn't disappear, but it no longer controlled me. Her words reminded me that failure isn't weakness, it's growth. So I applied for college. I took risks. I believed in myself, even when I was afraid. One summer, I volunteered at a community center, working with children who reminded me of Grandma's early struggles. Teaching them, listening to them, felt like carrying her legacy forward. In those moments, I could almost feel her beside me. Love became clearer. I repaired friendships. I forgave old wounds. I learned that relationships take effort, but they're always worth it. By the time I turned 21, I could see the change in myself. I was calmer, stronger, more compassionate. That rainy afternoon changed everything. Grandma's letter didn't just guide me, it transformed me. Her legacy lives on, in my choices, my courage, and my love. And even now, her voice reminds me that no matter how dark life becomes, hope is never truly gone. Years have passed since that rainy afternoon when I first held Grandma's letter in my hands. I have grown, stumbled, and risen again. And through every twist of life, her words remained my compass. Sometimes, on quiet rainy days, I still sit by the window holding that letter, and I can almost hear her voice, softly humming. The same voice that once read me bedtime stories and whispered advice I didn't yet understand. Those words are timeless. Not just ink on paper, but a legacy. A blueprint for living with kindness, integrity, and courage. I shared her lessons with others. Friends lost in self-doubt. Young hearts finding their way. Even strangers who crossed my path at the right moment. And every time I shared her story, I felt her presence beside me, because love doesn't end with absence. It lingers. It heals. Grandma's life wasn't easy. She faced loss, heartbreak, hardship. Yet she carried herself with grace and strength. Her letter was more than advice. It was a bridge across generations. Now the letter rests in a small wooden box, beside her smiling photograph. But its meaning is alive, in my heart, in my actions, in my soul. I've learned that true legacy is not wealth or fame, but the lives we touch and the love we leave behind. Grandma may not be here in person, but she lives on in every choice I make, every kindness I offer, every moment I choose love over fear. And so, I carry her forward, in my laughter, in my tears, in the way I live. Her story, her love, her wisdom remain with me always, timeless, unwavering, and infinitely precious.